heart of southern India, there lies a small and peaceful village called Mamundar. Surrounded by dense forests and rolling fields, the villagers lived a simple life, tending to their crops and caring for their livestock. For generations, the village had known calm and safety, but all of that was about to change. It began with small, unsettling signs. Livestock went missing. Strange footprints appeared near the forest edges, and an eerie feeling of being watched settled over the villagers. At first, they thought it was just a tiger hunting for food, nothing unusual. However, the terror began when people started disappearing. The first victim was a young boy collecting firewood near the forest. He never returned, and when the villagers searched for him, they found only silence and the unmistakable marks of tiger claws. Fear spread quickly through Mamundar. People became afraid to go into the forest or even step outside after dusk. The tiger was not just any predator. It was clever, cunning, and relentless. It seemed to study the villagers, learning their routines and striking when they were most vulnerable. Soon, it earned the fearful title of Man-Eater. The news of these attacks reached neighboring towns, prompting experienced hunters and forest officials to arrive in Mamundar. They brought rifles, traps, and careful plans, hoping to capture or kill the tiger. Yet the Man-Eater seemed always one step ahead, avoiding traps, escaping ambushes, and continuing its reign of terror. Days turned into weeks, and the village's fear grew. Every morning, the villagers feared discovering the next victim, and every night, the forests felt darker and more menacing. Whispers spread about the tiger's intelligence, as if it understood human behavior and used it to its advantage. Mamundar had become a village gripped by terror, waiting anxiously for the next strike. The story of the Mamundar Man-Eater tiger had begun, a story of fear, survival, and the deadly cunning of one of nature's most feared predators. In the next part, the tiger's attacks would escalate further, and the desperate attempts of hunters to stop it would begin. As weeks passed, the terror in Mamundar grew. The tiger became bolder, striking in broad daylight, sometimes even near the edges of the village. Farmers returning from their fields were not safe, and children playing near the forest were at constant risk. Each attack seemed more calculated than the last, leaving the villagers in a state of panic and despair. Rumors spread of the tiger watching its victims from the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The fear of going near the forest became so intense that many villagers stopped working in their fields, risking famine and hardship just to avoid encountering the deadly predator. Hunters and forest officials intensified their efforts, setting traps, laying baits, and organizing night watches, but the tiger continued to evade them. It was clever and experienced, often avoiding obvious dangers and appearing where no one expected it. The villagers watched in horror as their friends and neighbors became victims, and each new attack made the tiger seem almost unstoppable. Stories circulated of the man-eater's intelligence, of how it seemed to understand human behavior and exploit it to hunt more efficiently. The tension in Mamundar was palpable, with every sound in the night causing fear to ripple through the village. Despite the constant threat, some brave villagers began to help the hunters track the tiger, pointing out its paths and hunting grounds. Yet even with guidance, the tiger's cunning made it nearly impossible to catch. Its attacks continued, relentless and terrifying, proving that this was not an ordinary tiger, but a predator with an almost unnatural awareness of its surroundings. The villagers began to realize that survival depended on vigilance, courage, and the hope that one day, the man-eater would finally be confronted and stopped. As the attacks continued, fear and anger gripped the villagers of Mamundar. The man-eater had taken too many lives, and the need to stop it became urgent. Experienced hunters, forest officials, and even local volunteers worked together to track the tiger. They studied its patterns, trying to predict where it would strike next. Days of observation reveal that the tiger often hunted at dawn and dusk, preferring isolated areas where it could strike silently. The hunters set traps, laid baits, and waited patiently, but the tiger's intelligence and experience made it a master at avoiding danger. Each encounter brought them closer, yet the tiger seemed always a step ahead, disappearing into the dense forests before anyone could confront it directly. Despite the growing danger, a breakthrough finally came. A team of hunters, using the knowledge of the villagers and their own expertise, managed to lure the tiger into an area carefully prepared for confrontation. The tension was unbearable. Everyone knew that one wrong move could result in disaster. When the tiger appeared, it was cautious but powerful, moving with deadly grace. A tense struggle followed as the hunters coordinated to bring the beast down without risking more lives. Finally, after hours of careful planning, skill, and bravery, the man-eater was confronted face to face and killed. The villagers, who had lived in constant fear for so long, finally breathed a collective sigh of relief. The death of the Mamundar Man-Eater tiger marked the end of a terrifying chapter in the village's history. Life slowly returned to normal, but the memory of the fear, the losses, and the cunning predator lingered in the minds of the villagers for years. The story of the man-eater became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the deadly intelligence of nature's predators and the bravery required to confront them. Mamundar had survived, but the legend of the man-eater tiger lived on, a story of fear, survival, and human courage. The death of the Mamundar Man-Eater tiger brought peace back to the village, but its story did not end there. For years, the villagers remembered the terror it had caused, the lives it had taken, and the lessons it had left behind. The man-eater had become more than just a predator. It was a symbol of nature's raw power and intelligence, a reminder that humans must respect the wild. Parents told their children the story as a warning, teaching them to be cautious in the forests and to never underestimate the animals that share their land. The tiger's legend also inspired courage and unity. The villagers realized that their survival had depended on cooperation, bravery, and the wisdom of those who understood the forest. Hunters and forest officials who risked their lives became local heroes, remembered for their skill and determination. Over time, the story of the Mamundar Man-Eater tiger spread beyond the village, reaching other regions, and even becoming part of folklore. It served as a reminder that while humans could sometimes outsmart nature, respect, caution, and awareness were essential to coexist with the wild. Even today, the forests around Mamundar are visited with a sense of reverence. The tiger may be gone, but its shadow lives on in stories, in lessons, and in the careful way villagers approach the wilderness. The tale of the Mamundar Man-Eater tiger is not just about fear. It is about survival, courage, and the delicate balance between humans and the natural world. It reminds us that every predator, every challenge, and every struggle leaves a mark, shaping the communities that face them and the stories that endure for generations.